Welcome to the State of Security. I'm Sabrina and this is Ken.
Hello.
Today we're going to have a discussion about two topics we've been hearing a lot about from our clients. Number one is going to be focused on PCI and the other one is going to focus on network segmentation. So to start us off, Ken, for PCI and risk assessments, what should our clients be performing?
Yep. Well, there's a lot of gray matter. So the PCI Council has a SIG group, Special Interest Group, that is focused on kind of putting more clarification to what a risk assessment is for PCI. And during that SIG group, they kind of came out and said, okay, one is you have to have and follow the frameworks NIST, ISO 27005, as well as Octave. So those are the three preferred. And they should have four main points to them. Simple to understand, simple to perform. They have to be validated, have continuous improvement, and they have to be clear. So those are the four main points you want to get out of your risk assessment. Nowhere in there is it called for a repeatable process. So a lot of times when we talk to QSAs and they're looking at risk assessments and frameworks, they want a repeatable process. It's not necessarily called out. It's not probably a bad thing to have, but it's also not called out. Second thing is, when you look at it, there's a lot of gray matter into what PCI is considering a risk assessment for. So a risk assessment for PCI environment, or is it for the corporate, or is it for the corporate that influences the PCI environment? So there's coming out with more clarification on that. If you do have rocks that are going to be issued and QSA is doing work for you, this is something that's definitely going to be brought up to the table. In addition to, and some of the things that you're going to be looking at is how do you identify threat groups and what are threat agents that are looking to take information such as cardholder information, but other information pertaining to the organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's pretty informative. What would be the most important things you think people should remember when it comes to this?
I mean, the biggest thing to look at when you're doing it is, and specifically for organizations that are already rocks and have compliances to them, is it's definitely a trend that's moving towards 2013, 2014, and developing some type of a risk framework now is going to be something that then PCI can just snap into. So the advice is not to just build a risk framework and a risk assessment just for PCI. The organizations as a whole should be performing these regularly, and
okay.
PCI would just be a plug-in for that.
Okay. So just keep on performing it, and PCI is just kind of the plug-in.
Yep.
Okay. Now, network segmentation.
Yeah.
We have a lot of clients that are a little confused as to what that even is.
Yeah, so we get just a ton of questions about this, a lot from competitors as well as companies, believe it or not. And so network segmentation is an area that really has a misnomer. And I'll go through the top three things to look at for network segmentation. The first one being network segmentation is really business process. A lot of times changing the business process and the way that you use information will by nature start to segment the information itself. So a lot of people think network segmentation is more technology related, but it's really more business processing oriented. So if you understand where the data is at, how it flows through, changing the business process, and putting in technology components of that will really help segment. So obviously knowing where the data is the second most important thing. You have to know where the data is at and doing data discovery. If you're segmenting for PCI, for HIPAA, for PHI, or for PII, obviously knowing where that data is at is very critical. And then the third would be obviously doing data flows. Something we see a big trend on is looking at where the information comes in and out of the organization, specifically to the data that you want to segment. Doing data flow diagrams is a good use of this. It's not network topologies, it's not real detailed in technology, but it does show the systems that process the information, other service providers that hold information or third parties, and how that information is stored, transmitted, and processed. So those three key pieces to looking at network segmentation will get you in a better spot when thinking about how do we actually go through and perform and get network segmentation implemented.
Okay, so what we do is we find out where it lives,
Yep.
find the flow,
Right.
and then make the flow chart.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And like I said, most of it's going to be around business process. So specifically, PCI has a lot of calls out for network segmentation, specifically in the requirements. And you'll find out that a lot of it has to do with the change of processors or the way they store information. or the way they're taking it over the phone, or the way that they're using it. So again, not necessarily technology, but network segmentation by default will reduce your total cost of compliance as well as the scope for whatever type of regulatory compliance you're looking for.
When you say taking it over by the phone, can you give me some real world examples of that?
If you order something over.
That's part of the whole network segmentation?
Yeah, because the process and how they take it. So if they take it and they store it or they write it down, or they use it and they email it to a processing center, however that process is, by them being able to reduce that business process and not take it over the phone and email it off, that by itself can reduce the fact that the email system would be in scope. So by nature, it's starting to segment the environment from the data that they're holding.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so those are top 3 things to remember when it comes to network segmentation. Hopefully you're a little bit more clear on what it is now and what you should be doing.
Absolutely.
Just a reminder, if you have not sent in any topic ideas or suggestions, please do so. You can email them to me at spowers@securestate.com. And stay tuned to your inbox because we're also going to be sending out the external newsletter shortly.
Oh, cool.
So keep an eye out for that, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Take care.